James Gunn's knack of adding weird and obscure characters in movies wasn't always ideal, but Green Lantern worked out perfectly for Superman. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Pick any James Gunn movie, and you might find one or two characters that are just different from all the rest. Alien, human, god, it doesn't matter to Gunn as the director simply wants to have fun. James Gunn has a knack for adding weird and obscure characters to create a subplot in almost all of his movies. Be it the Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad or Rocket Raccoon from the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. The director did something similar in the recently released DCU flick, Superman. Introduced Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner/Green Lantern as a member of the Justice Gang, the pre-release reviews weren't too great about the character. Well, it turns out that James Gunn has done it again with his brilliance, as despite that weird haircut, people have become fans of the newly introduced Green Lantern. Powerful, fun, and serious when the problem arose, Guy Gardner was a character who was unpredictable and fun at the same time. I was unhappy when Green Lantern refused to rescue Superman from the Pocket Universe, but that quickly turned into laughter when he cared so much about the name Justice Gang and his haircut. Although I wasn't a fan of the weird haircut that Nathan Fillion had for his role as Guy Gardner, I quickly changed my mind when Fillion's Guy Gardner walked onto the big screen and helped Superman defeat that giant being. The reason this comic version of the yee haircut version of Green Lantern worked in the Superman movie is because of how James Gunn set the overall tone of the movie. Though weird, uncaring, and trying to be cool, Guy Gardner was indeed a subplot that Gunn wanted to add, but turns out, he's a pretty chill guy to have around. Although I was never a fan of the extremely weird and obscure characters that Gunn introduced in his movies, looking at you, Polka Dot Man, Guy Gardner is a weird person that I'm looking forward to seeing in other DCU projects. Much like his thoughts about Superman, Gunn decided to let the character of Guy Gardner be himself rather than being an all-serious, no-good two-dimensional nobody. Hence, Gunn essentially proved that superheroes do not need to be cool. They just need to be themselves. I personally loved Nathan Fillion's portrayal of Green Lantern, and despite his weirdness and an unhealthy obsession with the Justice Gang, he was still a cool character to have around. Remember Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern from 2010? It was inconsistent with its tone and tried to be a serious origin movie while also wanting to be a comedic film. We all know how that turned out. On the other hand, James Gunn's Superman aims to tackle a serious issue while peppering humor throughout the movie. Despite being unpredictable, Guy Gardner was never inconsistent with his character. Even James Gunn admitted that his aim wasn't to make Superman look cool, but rather to be the person that he is. What are your thoughts about this? James Gunn has been on a roll after the release of Superman, and here's every major reveal by Gunn about Superman and his future projects. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Being a lighter and colorful take on the character of Superman, monologues and dialogue-heavy scenes weren't really James Gunn's style. Even if he did, it would probably be for comedic effect. Surprisingly enough, the DCU flick does feature a 12-minute dialogue scene between Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan, and Clark Kent, played by David Corenswet. Being weary of a world that had turned against the very superhero they prayed for, Superman flies through the open balcony of Lois Lane's apartment, where the two sit down to have a heart-to-heart talk about who Superman really is, while Lois Lane contemplates breaking up with him. James Gunn has been hammering and toiling away to create a cinematic universe that these DC characters can call their home. With the release of Superman, and the film getting rave reviews, including one from me, there has been a ton of chatter and revelations by director James Gunn about Superman and the DCU. From the potential return of Henry Cavill to James Gunn's DCU to Bradley Cooper almost starring as Lex Luthor instead of Nicholas Hoult, James Gunn's Superman is filled with riddles and secrets that Gunn recently revealed in the Happy Sad Confused podcast. Well, here's every major Superman reveal by James Gunn and what it means for the DCU. Throughout his extensive Hollywood career, James Gunn has always relied on songs from the 70s and the 80s to put the audience in a groove. Compared to his other superhero movies, Superman has a lack of songs and rather relies on the music score composed by John Murphy and David Fleming to set the tone of the movie. Although there are songs in the movie, they are used sparingly throughout the entire 129-minute runtime. Remember, punk rocker in the closing credits. During his talks with the Happy Sad Confused podcast, the director reveals that the 12-minute talking scene was the biggest creative risk that he took in a superhero movie, but it paid off well. Before he was cast in the role of Jor-El alongside Angela Sarafian as Lara Lorvan, Bradley Cooper was initially considered by James Gunn to portray the role of Lex Luthor. However, the actor revealed in the podcast that he wanted Lex Luthor to be contemporary of Superman's age. And since Bradley Cooper was a little bit older, he wouldn't fit in the age range of David Corenswet's Superman. Gunn admitted that Cooper would have been a great Lex. With that age factor in mind, Gunn decided to take Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Gunn revealed in the Happy Sad Confused podcast that this decision was scary, since he hadn't done it before. Several of the original scores had to be toned down and made lighter to fit the theme of the movie, and the movie, Jor-El's remaining half of a message is decoded by Lex Luthor. The latter half of the message instructs Superman to conquer Earth and make it a second Krypton. Throughout the movie, audiences are kept in the dark about whether that message was fabricated by Lex Luthor or was it real. However, in the podcast, James Gunn revealed that Jor-El and Lara's message is real and not at all doctored. The reason for this controversial choice was that Gunn wanted the audience to realize that Superman was his own person with his beliefs and moral codes, despite being directly ordered by his biological parents to conquer the home where he was raised. However, James Gunn did give Bradley Cooper his due screen time when he cast Cooper in the role of Jor-El, who appears in a hologram message in Superman. However, as the trailer dropped and hype started, people started accepting David Corenswet as the new Man of Steel and eventually fell in love with his portrayal, again, me being one of them. When David Corenswet was initially cast as Superman, there was an intense backlash because of Henry Cavill's controversial exit and his millions of fans, me being one of them. In the movie, we are introduced to some new and old characters from James Gunn's DCU, namely, Guy Gardner/Green Lantern, Nathan Fillion, Hawkgirl, Isabella Merced, and Mr. Terrific, Eddie Gathegi. The three heroes call themselves the Justice Gang and are financed by Maxwell Lord, who was played by Pedro Pascal in Wonder Woman 1984, and the film depicts an unfinished Hall of Justice building. The murals depict several heroes like Jay Garrick, Flash, Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and Dr. Fate, which suggests a history of the Justice Society of America. During his talks with IMDb, James Gunn revealed that he was watching the 2022 horror film Pearl. Corenswet had portrayed the role of the projectionist, and Gunn thought, that guy looks like he could possibly be Superman. A quick search on IMDb brought the actor's name, and the rest, as we know, is history. However, Cavill soon announced his departure from the newly formed DCU, which made Bloodsport's Peacemaker shout-out is official canon, hinting at exciting spin-offs and deeper character arcs in the DCU's next phase. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. This isn't just a fun piece of trivia. It sets up Bloodsport as a key player in the future of the DCU. And since Gunn's new era is all about flawed characters with messy pasts, Bloodsport fits the vibe. He's not a clean-cut hero, but he's not a full villain either.